episode of Stardust Crusaders might be one of the best action episodes of the entire series, and as it stands so far, it is my favorite action episode of Stardust Crusaders. Not only was the action incredible, the animation was good, it was really intense, but this was one of the most heartbreaking episodes of the series that I have ever seen. It's not enough that Avdol was just killed instantly in last week's episode, and I'm pretty sure he's 100% dead at this point. Not only because of how powerful Vanilla Ice's stance powers are, but just because you guys let me know in the comments section below that, yeah, Avdol pretty much is dead. And that's incredibly depressing, and it just demonstrates again why Vanilla Ice is such a devastatingly horrifying opponent. And in this week's episode, Polnareff and Iggy do everything in their power to fight back against Vanilla Ice, but it just isn't enough. Vanilla Ice just keeps coming. He is that dedicated to Dio. And his powers are absolutely disturbing. We get to see them to an even greater effect in this week's episode, where before we learn that his stand would literally devour its own body, and it would create this like weird bubble or this weird ball that whatever touched it would be just completely erased and obliterated and sent to this other dimension. And there's a lot of scenes where he's inside of this bubble just running around on the walls, creating all these skid marks all over the floor and just destroying everything in his path. And both Iggy and Polnareff get the full blunt of his attacks this week. There's a scene where Polnareff loses like a part of his foot, a few fingers, a huge chunk of his leg. He gets straight up curb stomped in this week's episode. And Iggy tries, he tries to help by using his stand in a number of different ways, just straight up attacking, trying to make his stand transform into Dio, but that doesn't work because Vanilla Ice realizes that Dio would never walk into a room with sunlight. He ends up attacking him, and the scene where he attacks Iggy this week was so disturbing. I was so upset by that scene. Just the fact that he's beating up this Boston Terrier, literally punching him in the face, sending him flying against a wall, kicking him constantly, breaking his ribs. And this scene here is just so heartbreaking because Iggy is just doing all of this to try and help out Polnareff. And I really loved after he's just being beaten to death how he still manages to put on a smile. And that's when Polnareff just goes insane with Silver Chariot. And Silver Chariot this week, God, Silver Chariot's awesome. Easily one of my favorite stands of all time. I love the design, I love the sword abilities, and he's just going nuts, cutting up everything in his path, using all types of awesome sword abilities. It's just such a fantastic action episode. And there's this great scene after Iggy has just had the snot beaten out of him, where Polnareff tries to use this attack, where he kicks up some of Iggy's stand's sand up into the air, and this gives him the ability to actually see this like weird bubble or this weird ball that Vanilla Ice is using, and he's waiting for him to get right next to him, and as soon as he comes out of his stand, he takes Silver Chariot's sword, stabs it right through Vanilla Ice's tongue, through his mouth, out the back of his neck, and Vanilla Ice is still alive! He's still kicking! Just because he's so angry that Iggy actually created an image of Dio that he had to destroy. That's how dedicated he is to him. And then by the end of the episode, Iggy, Polnareff are about to be defeated by this big, massive ball of death, and it ends in a to-be-continued screen! Holy crap! So what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders, this is one of the best episodes of the entire series, and I think most JoJo fans will agree. Not only is the action just absolutely amazing, but this is a point in the series where our characters are being pushed to the very limits of their will. They are suffering some massive damage in this week's episode. I mean, I'm surprised Iggy is still even alive. I mean, just the fact that this giant grown man is beating a Boston Terrier to death with his feet and hands is so disturbing. He won't even use his stand to try and take him out because he simply wants to take as much time with him so that he can get revenge against him just for killing an image of Dio, which wasn't even real. Vanilla Ice is one of the creepiest villains I've seen from this series, and he is so nastily dedicated to Dio, and that's really what makes him so dangerous. Polnareff this week was just insane. He was pissed the whole time, throughout the whole episode, just going crazy, slashing everything around the mansion with his swords and trying to dodge all of Vanilla Ice's technique. I especially love the scene where Iggy and Polnareff are getting ready to run out the door. Like, they could totally run to safety, but instead, they decide to turn around and fight back. I especially love that Iggy wanted to fight as well. He stuck his tail up, and he was getting all pumped up. That whole scene was both funny and awesome. But Vanilla Ice just brought things to this like weird, disturbing level where he was just destroying them. Especially the scenes where Polnareff little by little was like just losing body parts. Just the first top part of his foot, and then just the huge chunk of his leg and his fingers. They're all gone. He suffered some pretty serious damage throughout the entire series, especially that one time when he was fighting against that one genie stand. But this time, it just takes it to this entirely new level. On the technical side of things, animation, artwork, music, voice acting, on freaking point in this week's episode. Can you tell that I liked this episode? I loved it a lot. And the to be continued screen is going to drive me insane for the next week because I don't read the manga version of JoJo. I don't know what's going to happen, but after seeing the ending of this week's episode, I can think of a few different scenarios. One, Iggy is probably going to end up saving Polnareff, or they're both going to die at the same time, and just all the members of the team are just going to be killed off until we're left with the two JoJo's and Kakyoin. Mind blown by this amazing episode right here, which you should definitely check out if you are a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But let's face it, if you are, you've probably already watched this episode and you know how freaking awesome it was. So, due to the amazing style, animation, action scenes, intensity, and just the mystery of this week's episode, I'm gonna give this one right here a 5 out of 5, a perfect episode of JoJo that you should definitely check out. I absolutely loved it. It is my favorite episode of the entire series thus far. I cannot wait to see how this series is going to end, and if Polnareff and Iggy are gonna get out of this, oh my god, I'm so freaked out by that. So, I love this episode a lot, but what about you guys? Did you watch this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? Did you have a favorite action scene? Do you think Polnareff and Iggy are gonna get out of this situation alive? Is somebody gonna save them? What's gonna happen? Please tell me in the comments section below, and make sure to tell me what you hope to see from the rest of Stardust Crusaders. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with all of your friends, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.